Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to do my manga review for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 388. The translations came out a little bit earlier than they typically do, so you know what, I'm going to do my review a little bit earlier. And a few things that we really need to talk about when it comes to this chapter before we get into it properly. A few bits of news. One, this is going to be a very shorter chapter, so this review itself is going to be a little bit more condensed than typically, or maybe expanded upon, whichever I choose to. And second, this is most likely an indication that we are going to be having a color page within the next chapter, which is probably why this chapter is a little bit shorter. But with that little piece of information out the way, let's dive right into the chapter review and really talk about what is going on in this chapter. And for starters, the chapter starts off with a flashback. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy myself a good flashback, and I do understand why people are saying that, yes, oh my gosh, we have another flashback after a reveal that we saw last chapter, Horikoshi is a horrible writer. Like, I just never understood that understanding of flashbacks in My Hero Academia because A, Horikoshi uses flashbacks constantly ever since chapter 1, where we got a flashback in chapter 2 to chapter 1. But just also just how the story is currently structured, where we're getting multiple different events occurring at the same time, and because of that, we can't see everything within a linear fashion, one after the other. So we have to flash back to previous events because the events that we are seeing currently are occurring at that same time, but how we got to those events cannot be seen prior due to just how the story is structured. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's just something that I'm just going to be hearing for the rest of My Hero Academia, so I just really want to get my anger out and my disappointment in the fandom out right now. But besides that, this flashback is still a very cool flashback. We get to see Kendo actually get to do some cool stuff, as we also get to see Death Arms, as well as, ooh, it's been a while since we've seen him. And by Death Arms, I actually meant Gunhead, as well as Tetsu, but also we get to see Death Arms in this chapter too, as well as a few familiar characters that you would remember from Cultural Festival. So yeah, we get these characters protecting the civilians, as we see that they are the ones that are responsible for evacuating the people out of this dome after they stopped the Alpha One spies from, blowing it up completely, but because of the damage done prior, they can't really move with inside it, so they have to evacuate. And it is at this time when we get to see the members of the Todoroki family that we saw were in this barrier go up to the surface, as well as we get to see the robots that were a part of UA, the small ones specifically, and how they are going to be the ones responsible getting the civilians to safety as they try to not look at and also try to avoid the huge dome of fire that is created by Dabi. And now pretty much this entire flashback ends with Rei looking at that direction, telling one of the robots to say, hey, take me over there. Kids, stay here, not to protect your sister, as we see her go towards that location, and the flashback ends with the death of the robot. They were AI and evil, so you know what? Actually, you know what? He gave a thumbs up, so I actually care about that one specific robot. But yeah, from here, this is where we cut over to the present, and this is where the bulk of the chapter is going to be the focus on, the Todoroki family interaction, and pretty much being the beginning of the end, most likely for this plotline in the story of My Hero Academia. Because we see that Rei apologizes to Dabi in this moment, and how Todoroki endeavors telling her to get away or she'll be burned to death, as she gives a retort that she's not going to more or less allow Endeavor and Toya to die on her watch, as she is most likely than not trying to preserve and cool down Toya with her ice quirk. And this is all just within the storytelling that Horikoshi wanted to tell. This is what he was building up to, that this wasn't going to be a battle solely against Toya versus Endeavor or Toya versus Shoto, but Toya versus his entire Todoroki family. Which also explains why Toya screams for Natsuo as well as Fuyumi, because they also came and they also didn't want Toya to die. Fuyumi pretty much speaking up against the idea that she doesn't want to see her older brother die because she was very complacent and more or less didn't really take an active role when she was younger, which is why she's here now. Natsu finally calling out the stupidity that is going on through Toya by saying stupid big brother. And pretty much what we're seeing in this chapter is that what they're doing is that they're beginning to break down Toya and try to bring Toya back. Because currently, him going wild is just all purely Dabi, but the interactions that we're seeing in this chapter may be bringing Toya back to the forefront and more or less back to who he was at the beginning of his flashback. Because we see that his mental capacity has gone back to the point where he was younger, where he was actually Toya, and that this may be the key to actually saving Dabi and also saving Toya. As you have Endeavor, who does not want anyone to die besides really himself, as he tells himself, as well as Toya, as well as everyone else, that he doesn't want his family to die, even if it means sacrificing himself. As the chapter ends with Toya himself perceiving a future that cannot exist, where he is happy with his family, with Endeavor, with his brother, with his sister, with his mother. And we know that this is most likely the perspective of Toya and not necessarily an actual what if future in the present timeline, because we see that Toya is missing his right arm, which is the arm that he is missing in this fight that we saw in the last chapter. So yeah, what this chapter is pretty much building up to is the idea that this Todoroki family plotline is about to come to an end and potentially someone is going to die. Many people theorize and say that, oh, the entire Todoroki family is going to die and Shoto's going to be left alone and that makes them bad parents. However, it would be bad parenting to not do anything and everything in your effort to try and save your child. Because even though, yes, you may have other children that is left behind or other children that you have to take care of, you're still a parent and you're still going to try your best to save the child that's in front of you. But yeah, pretty much this is more setup for what's to come. And I think that within the next few chapters, we're going to get the resolution of the Todoroki family outcome and subplot. Mainly due to the fact that apparently there's been a running theme of interactions between Endeavor and Dabi, where Endeavor and Dabi finally meet for the first time in chapter 190. In chapter 290, they meet once again, but this time Dabi reveals himself to be Toya. And we're about to approach 390, which is probably where something crucial is going to happen between Toya and Dabi, as well as Endeavor, with potentially one of them dying. As well as, you know, Shoto coming in to attempt to save the day and may save one of them, both of them, or none of them. We just don't know. What we do know is that this is going to be a family that is going to be scarred, both literally and very much figuratively. But yeah, that's all I really have to say for this review. This was a very short chapter and it's pretty much set up for what's to come within the next few chapters when it comes to the end of the Todoroki family subplot. And most likely that cover page or the color page is going to involve the Todorokis in one way or another, because that's just what Horikoshi does typically. So, let me ask you, what did you think of the chapter? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you think that it was too short, just being 11 pages? Or would you think that it would have been better if we had a longer chapter? Leave your thoughts down below. I would love to read them. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to be notified for whenever I upload more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!